Sarah, I
Oh my
am so excited
God.
to talk to you.
I mean, these are just some of my favorite conversations of all time. So
Yep.
whenever we reach out to each other, I'm like, I can't wait for this conversation. Because obviously you've kind of changed my life. I mean, just throwing that out there.
Oh my God. You know what? I'm following your story too. I just saw that your love bought you a lovely dinner of oysters and
I
just
know.
read your mind and everything you
Read
wanted. And
my
you're like, this is the
mind.
man of my dreams. And
Uh,
it made me smile. It made me smile.
Girl, I'm telling you, I can't wait to get into all that, but I really do have to thank you. So I don't know if you want to start there, but like I have to thank you because the last time we did a podcast, you kind of held my feet to the fire a little bit. And I was like,
Yep.
okay,
I
challenge
remember.
accepted.
I remember because it was almost like because you were in that place where I myself have been in, where you're kind of like, I think I'm done for a while. I think I don't want,
Sure.
and I don't know that I want to keep going out and trying to manifest this love, this relationship. And I remember that conversation. We went deep.
We
We went
did.
deep.
And you called me
Yep.
on it. And I think like I was doing what a lot of women do in my experience, which is convince yourself. We can convince ourselves of anything. And
Yep.
I'd through a pretty kind of traumatic, low-key relationship, not relationship thing the previous year that I was healing from. And I was like, I just don't need this anymore. I'm never gonna get online dating again. Like that's done.
Yeah.
And you just like I'm so grateful because you just called me out on it and you were just like, well, wait a second, like maybe the attitude is part of it a little bit, like
Yeah. The
maybe if
energy.
you change it, the
Yeah.
energy, you'll get a different result. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because with a couple of my coaching clients right now, my Find Your Spark coaching clients, I get some of that conversation too, a little bit of pushback. Like, I don't know if I really want to do dating apps. I don't know if I really want to go out there again. And I get it, but we do have to unpack where that comes from. And it usually comes from past traumas or hurts or wounds or disappointments. It doesn't really have anything to do with what's happening right now in your life. It's memories that you have, old stories that you're still telling yourself. So,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying every single person has to use an app, a dating app. I mean, although it's an incredible, invention for our
Yeah.
dating
Yeah.
time, but it's not everyone has to do that, but you do have to energetically get ready for love and put yourself out there with an open heart and an open mind. And
Yeah.
that's really what we're talking about when we talk about resistance, right?
Absolutely. And I think, for me and for a lot of singles out there, like we've done it kind of the way we thought we should. The results didn't match up. A lot of times it's super negative on your mental health. It's very draining on your mental
Yeah.
health. And I think I also had this very clear story in my head that I had put in there probably 10 years before, where I was like, I'm gonna meet the man of my dreams in person. And I was just like,
Hmm.
absolutely 100% it's going to be in person. It's going to be like in the movies, right? I was like, it's
Yeah.
never going to be on apps. Like the apps can be for when I'm bored, you know? And
Right.
I think that was part of it, honestly, because the toxic person I met the year before was someone I met in person. So immediately I was like, oh my God, this is it. And I think like I was blind to literally every other glaring red flag because I was so stuck on that story. And there was something about kind of the way we had that conversation that day where it just unlocked that piece for me. And I don't even think I probably consciously knew it or put it together.
Hmm.
But I also want to say that I did before. I feel like you and I had our conversation maybe in February or March of last year, sometime early in the year. But in
Hmm.
January, I had written out this 6-page detailed description on the type of relationship that I wanted, the type of man he would be, how I would feel, how we would treat each other, how we would interact. Just, I mean, literally, I wrote until there was nothing left to pull out of the sky. Um,
Yeah.
and I think having done that at least probably a month before we had that conversation really helped it unlock because with your guidance of like, hey, go on, you be the picker, you decide if there's anyone of interest to you that is kind of matching up to what you already know you want. And if they're
Yep.
just be breezy about it. It's not the end of the world. It's not, and I think
Right.
and be clear on kind of what those expectations are and go into it open-minded. And I think that was really a game changer for me because I just thought, hey, you know, what I have nothing to lose. The kids the kids were gone
Right.
for a weekend. I was like, okay, sure, so I took that advice and did my profile differently and totally changed my energy about it.
Hmm.
And within a couple hours, I started messaging with my guy. He was the only person that I matched with or messaged that time on Hinge, and with a brand new profile and everything that I had just set up that night. We messaged for about 2.5 days, and then I was like, I really don't want to be on the dating apps. I just want to delete this thing. I don't love the app. But I was like, I really would love to continue our conversation. And we have literally never missed a single day of talking ever since. Like,
Wow. Wow. That is, see, this is, oh, I love this story so much. This is such a great love story, Sarah, because, it's like you busted through, you broke through that barrier and you saw the barrier. You're like, yeah, that's the energetic barrier. I am not going to get what I want with that barrier up. I
right.
know that for a fact. And you know that. I mean, you are the master manifester. You know that. You know
Yep,
it very well. And you
exactly.
had it right. And you had to bust through that barrier. And an exercise like writing down every single thing you want, which is a wonderful mindset clarifier, right? You really get clear about who you are now, what you want now in this chapter of life, different than what you wanted in your 30s or 20s, right?
Yeah.
And you get really clear about it. You declare it for yourself. And then, yeah, you bring the energy of, hey, this is not the end of the world if this particular interaction doesn't work out. This is not a
Absolutely.
reflection on me. It's not a reflection on my lovability or my attractiveness. It's just, I'm going to get out there. I'm going to bust through this barrier. And you did
Yeah.
it.
And you also said something to me either in that conversation or a previous one that had always really, really stuck with me, where you were talking about meeting your now husband and your first interaction was like, okay, cool, not
Yeah.
not the one I would totally normally go for, not like the fireplace sparks happening or those fireworks sparks happening immediately. And we talked about how important it was to be open. And in my head, I was like, I'm open, I'm totally open, right? But if I
Yeah.
looked at anyone I'd ever dated, I was clearly not because they were all just carbon copy types of the same wrong person for me. And so,
Yep.
ultimately, when I wrote that 6-pager, on the top of it, I said, this is so I will recognize him when I see him because he will not be my type. Like, I literally had to have
Oh,
all of these
oh,
specifics because I was
that
like,
is
no,
so
my type.
Wait a minute. I love that. That is so brilliant. I think I really, really want people to hear that because that's huge. That's exactly right. You might not recognize him if he doesn't come in the exact same old story package that, by the way, those old stories didn't work or else you wouldn't be single right
No,
now, right?
and they were
It's not going to
toxic, they were
come.
terrible.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
I had to train myself when I first started dating David because he's a quieter person. And I was very much used to and always drawn to the life of the
right.
party, the big personality. And I thought, like, well, I have to have that because I'm a big talker. So I need somebody just like me. And I really had to stop myself several times in those first few weeks of dating David to say, remember what you said, Nancy. You said that if you want a different love story, you have to look for a different kind of man. So,
Mhm.
so stay true to those words and see where this is going to take you. And then
Uh,
lo and behold, it took me to true love.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so much gold that you just said in there that women women don't understand because we were not conditioned this way. We were conditioned,
Right.
from the time we were 2 years old watching Disney princess movies, that there was supposed to be a spark, that there was supposed to be like, he sees you on the train, and oh
Yes.
my God, that's the love of your life forever, like all of this stuff. And so I think rolling back that conditioning takes a long time and it totally is all new training. And I think the reason why it was so
Yep.
important for me to identify really specific things like he's a kind human being. Like that is who he is, the core of who he is. So then I could look for, is kindness showing up? Is it not showing up? Right. So the specifics that I wrote were very much like I would be able to kind of see them and recognize those characteristics so I could really get to know the person. But then the funny thing is like when I was swiping that very first day, kind of trying to train the algorithm, if you will, um, I saw him, I was like, meh, and normally in my old mindset, honest to God, him and I probably would have swiped the other way because he's
Yeah.
never dated a person like me. And I had never dated, I had never dated like, I usually go for the really tall, like 6'5".
Yeah,
So I was like,
same. Are you kidding?
yeah, I was like,
Yes.
that's what I need to make me feel small, or that's what I need to make me feel safe, or whatever.
Yep.
Um, and he's not all those like dumb outward things. And so I clicked on it. So I was like, okay, I'll train the algorithm. And he was just immediately so intelligent, and just that conversation was so important to me. And that was the number one thing on my list. And
Yeah.
number two was emotional intelligence. And immediately those just, he is that to the core. So like every interaction, he brings that to it. And so I'm just so grateful, because I immediately knew, hold on, girl, like
Yep.
let a slow burn is okay. I was so conditioned to the rush of
Mm-hmm.
my chaotic, oh my God, I can't be without you.
Yeah,
Uh,
because we've been told that that's what love feels like.
Absolutely.
Chaotic, topsy-turvy, it turns your world on the side. It's like it's
Butterflies.
nutty,
Yeah.
butterflies, roller coaster, and none of that stuff, all of that stuff is toxic. None of that stuff is healthy. It is not healthy. It's not the way I want to live.
100%.
And see, this is the thing that I think that's really magical about dating in the middle of life, is that you know better now. You
Yeah.
know that you don't want topsy-turvy,
Yeah.
your world upended. No, thank you. I need to get up
Yeah.
tomorrow morning and go to work. Like I've got
Exactly.
kids to take care of. I don't have the time for that nonsense.
No.
And so you know better. And now you can really look for love, knowing who you are and having that calm center be your guide.
Yeah.
I love
And I
that.
think
I
we
love
were
that.
also falsely led to believe that if we didn't have all that, then we were settling, because all that should
Right.
be there. Otherwise, we settled. Right. And so, like, if I had immediately brought him around my girlfriends, or immediately talked to my girlfriend, they were like, well, if you don't feel like that, oh my God, you're
Right.
settling. Like, why would you settle? Why would you invest more time? Why would you this, that, or the other thing? And what we don't realize, again, is if we don't have I do think that list just was so critical for me, because it really helped me to ask questions to see if those characteristics were there. It helped me to step back and let him lead, because that was one of the things I wanted. So it really allowed me the space and gave me the pause buttons, if you will, to
Mm-hmm.
let me see if he was those things, and then to allow our connection to form very organically, very solidly, very lovingly.
Yep.
And for me to retrain
Right.
myself to be like, oh, love is safety, love is kindness, love is
See?
thoughtfulness.
Yes.
Like, I didn't know
Yes.
what was any of those things, because I have never, swear to God, experienced it before, ever.
No,
So I
and
always
how about
thought,
this?
yes.
How about love is patience and understanding, and somebody who actually likes all the parts of you, and you don't have to hide certain parts, and you don't have to pretend to be something you're not. And guess what? Neither does he.
Oh my
So
God.
it's like this beautiful coming together of like, but you can only bond like that with a patient, like, unfolding of a love
Yeah.
story. When it's all sparks and fireworks from the get-go, you don't really have the time or space to really get to know each other and to have that bond. It's like, think
Yeah.
about friendships. The best friendships you've ever had are friendships that unroll slowly over time,
Yeah.
and those are the ones that will sustain you for decades into your life. The flash in the pan relationships, I mean, they're flash in the pan for a reason. They don't work and they don't stick
Right.
around.
Yeah. And I would just say there's this quote that I had heard that just kind of sealed it for me, was women are out there looking for fireworks when what they really want is a fireplace. And I did not
Mm.
get that until I got to the healed place in my life where I could understand what that even meant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was
Oh,
always for
absolutely.
the fireworks. I was always looking for the we look good together, or the where, this, that, or the other. Um, when I stripped all the BS away and thought about it, I was like, oh my God, that is absolutely what I want. I want someone who always holds me down, who always makes me feel safe, who is my
Yep.
home in every possible way. I just had never experienced it, so I didn't know what to look for. So I think that that exercise of going through and identifying first is just so critical, because most
It
of us
is.
don't know, because we don't have examples of what healthy, beautiful, healed love looks like.
No.
So we have to sit down and almost imagine it first.
Yes. Okay. So this brings me to something I want to talk about. So I saw this in you know, I follow you and I
Okay.
read everything you write, and I'm so excited about this new book of yours coming out. And I saw that you started talking about the 5 steps to manifesting the love of your life.
Yeah.
And because you're going to be at Love Camp, my Love Camp retreat in April in beautiful Leavenworth, Washington, and you and I are going to do a workshop together. So of course I, you know, started reading about what you're talking about the 5 steps. And I love these 5 steps. And I love step 4 because
Mhm.
step 4 is make a love future board.
Yes.
And when I first met you, Sarah, it was all about these future boards. And I love them so much. And you put a spin on vision boards and on envisioning your future and manifesting what you want in life. You put such a spin on that for me that you made it so real. It
Mm.
wasn't just hypothetical talking. It was like, no, no, Nancy, look at this is really how you do this. Is actually how I have manifested all these things into my
Yeah.
life. And I'm like,
Yeah. This is your
please
future. Yeah.
teach me, teach
Yeah.
me. So when I saw your 5 steps, and it starts with heal yourself, and about writing down what you want, this
Yeah.
exercise you just talked about, writing, being really clear, and visualizing and daydreaming your future love. And then step 4 is about the future board, the love, the romance and love future board. So I really want, I want that to be one of the workshops that we do at Love Camp. Let's do
Yes.
that together and talk about it. Tell me about it, because I want to hear it from you. What will that entail?
Yeah, I think it's so critical because again, if you have not had a healthy, healed, beautiful, safe relationship in the past, you don't have much to go on. So this is like blank slate territory for you anyway, and you have to understand that it is going to be you learning literally every day. Every single day I've been with him, I'm like, "Oh, I'm learning. This is how it works in a happy, healed thing." Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
So part of what helps get you ready for that is to actually build it before you have it, right? So walk through
Yeah.
this exercise and it can really stem from the first part, which is writing it all down. That will help you a lot because you'll already be kind of imagining, you'll be seeing scenarios. You'll be kind of imagining how you would work together as a couple, the kind things you would do to each other, how you'd show love, stuff like that. So we want to actually start there. We want to start with something really simple, like the word love. What does love mean to you? How do you show it?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you want it shown to you? So then you have to kind of get a little creative and really think about that and say, is it kind gestures? Is it thoughtfulness? Is it someone holding my hand, in public or whatever those things are? So once you kind of have a list of, maybe 3 to 10 things that are visual ways love is expressed for you, then you can have a blast on Pinterest and you can just say couple holding hands in public, right? And so you'll start to see all
Mm-hmm.
these beautiful examples of what that actually looks like. And that is honestly the first time that this is starting to manifest for you because the idea of manifesting is thought turning into reality, right? And so this is
Mm-hmm.
the first step to that. This is the first time those thoughts you're building in your mind are now showing up as, oh, someone's living that. Even if it was a photo shoot, they're living it, and so you can start with the word love. You can also start with what are some of the things that we want to do together? What's important to me? We don't have to have the same interests, but for me, travel is very important. I don't think I could be with a person who hadn't internationally traveled because it's that important to me. And luckily he loves the international travel and has, and we will together as well. So then I wanted to think of like, okay, what are the places I want to go? And you can find tons of those pictures. And remember when you're looking, put the word couple into everything that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took it one step
Yeah.
further. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say I took it one step further and I thought of like, okay, well, what are some of the things that I'm working to overcome? Like, what is some of the feedback I've gotten in the past
Yes.
that I need to change and work on? And one was I want my feminine energy to show up. I mean, it really has been dormant pretty much my whole life. I'm very dominant, type A, independent, don't need nobody. But I was like, in this season of my life, I want to find her. I want to let her out, and I want a healed masculine man as that like beautiful combo. And
Yes.
so I started looking for, okay, well, what does that look like in a couple situation? Is he helping her do something? Because no joke, I'm the type that would open my own door and not even realize he was reaching for it. Not to be rude or to
Yeah.
be like whatever, it just was not even in my conscious space. So I wasn't in that
Mm-hmm.
feminine energy to step back and be like, thank you so much for doing that for me, you know? So I started looking for those visual um, things that would show, okay, this is him doing that. This is you in that
Mm-hmm.
you know, energy. And then a big one was for me is I really wanted to feel supported. I've never felt supported in my life. And so I was like, okay, well, what does that look like? And these are very creative. Like you really have to kind of get outside your head a little bit to think about it. So I started looking for pictures of a woman either like sitting on a man's lap or him holding her from behind
Mm-hmm.
to show that kind
Mm-hmm.
of support, that protection, that safety. And now we always, our favorite picture is this picture of Russell and Sierra, where he's sitting back, just like, I got this, you know, just all the confidence in the world. And she's just like glowing queen status on his knee. And I was like, okay, that's the one. So now all the time we joke that he's my Russell.
That is, see, but here's what I love about that though. And this, I want to do this. I want to absolutely do this exercise at Love Camp because I love it because it's a visual depiction of your heart's desires.
Yes.
And it's easy to say, I want to be in love. I want to find a man. I want to have a relationship. I want a partnership. Those are the broad strokes. Those are the first ideas that come into your mind. But you really have to go beneath that. You have to dig in. What does it mean to you? What does it actually look like, feel like, taste like, smell like? Where am I? What does a perfect day look like? What does a perfect weekend look like? Or what does just a regular day and weekend
Yeah.
look like? Because that's the truth about
It's super
love
important.
too. It's
Yeah.
that it's every day. It's not just the big huge moments and the trip around the world or the
Yeah.
big huge romantic gesture. It's every day. What does it feel like to be with somebody who supports me, sees me, understands me, cherishes me? What does it look like? And I like what you said a minute ago about what do I want to bring to it too? What do I want to give? How do I want to show up in a loving relationship? And
Yeah.
so, like a future board gives you this big, beautiful mosaic of your love story before it gets here.
Yep.
And it's such an important energetic exercise to get that out there for yourself, to get to put it in front of yourself like that
Yeah.
as a guiding light.
It's the first time you're really seeing what that dream relationship could look like. And to me, a future board is always
Mm-hmm.
a pre-photo album, if you will. I mean, that's how mine manifests. They manifest almost like
Yeah.
directly from my future boards. I have an entire wall in my house that are pictures that manifested almost exactly like the pictures. So they are my future memories. So I do it very intentionally. I want to make sure that it encompasses everything I care about. So for instance, there's pictures of a man and woman reading together, of just sitting in that stillness on a Sunday morning and reading together. And because growth is really important to me. I'm like, again, can't be with someone who isn't interested in growth. And like, you know,
Right.
he's the only other man I've ever met that reads as many books as I do and on personal growth, you know? So like knowing that was super important in being able to, you know, draw it into my space and into my universe. But then also, you know, even going beyond that and just really thinking of how do we treat each other?
Mm-hmm.
What does life look like? And then think of the whole arc. I mean, there's pictures on my love future board of couples in their 90s, you know, like dance,
Oh,
like I'm doing the whole thing. I'm like,
that's smart. That's
yeah,
smart because you're looking into your actual future, the
future.
decades that are unfolding, in front of you.
Yep.
And the truth is, the message here is you're in control of what you manifest in your life. You are in the driver's seat of your life. And so it's important to have some kind of a connection to that future vision because too many of us, I think, just go through life kind of like letting life wash over us, letting life happen to us instead of thinking that we have any kind of shred of control over it. And I feel like that's what when women talk to me who are in the middle of life and they're like, never mind, I'm throwing the towel in. I give up. I can't find him. I've been dating forever. I'm tired. I don't want to do it anymore. I feel like you're just letting life take the reins when you should take the reins back and say, you know what? I'm not going to give up on my love story. I'm not going to give up on this beautiful love life that I want and deserve. Right. So that exercise is you just turning the volume up creating your love future board, letting yourself see the movie of it, the movie of your life, the photographs, the pictures, the ideas, the energy, the feeling, letting yourself see it so that you can actually create it. And I love that. I mean, I am a big believer in that.
I have to tell you this really funny story because he was over last weekend and we were making pasta from scratch, and which was one of the things that was on my on my love future board, of course.
Yeah.
I love my cooking. I love my Italian, right? And then after that, we were looking through my love future board that I've had. Oh my gosh, I probably some of the pins probably go back 10 years. I mean, it's one I've just kept growing and growing on Pinterest. And so we were scrolling all the way through it, and we get about halfway down, so probably from a couple years ago, and there's 3 or 4 pictures of a couple sitting courtside at an NBA game. And
Oh.
this was 3 days before that, he had taken me to the Blazers game and surprised me with courtside tickets to the Blazers game. And I
Oh
had
my God.
forgotten that I had ever pinned pictures of this ever. I mean, completely spaced it out. Him and I, as we're scrolling, we're like, oh my God. Because we were literally 3 days
Oh my
before
God.
courtside, and that's the only time him and I have been to a Blazer game. And
Wow.
we both look at each other, we're like, okay, this is crazy. So it will show up like in ways you never expect. And I look at him and I was like, did I have anything to do with Thursday nights? And he was like, absolutely nothing. You didn't even know where we were going. I was like, there you go.
There you go.
So then we made a
It's
board of our life together because he was like, okay, we should do this together.
That's so great.
Yeah.
So that's so great. So Sarah, you're coming to Love Camp and we're going to do future boards with the Love Campers. And I cannot wait for that. I think it's going to be a really new exercise for most people. I think
Yeah.
that I think we all are aware of this idea of vision boarding and manifesting and visualizing what we want. But I think very few of us actually do it. And once you start doing it, it's such an energy creator. It just gets you so excited.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, no one that I've ever met has done anything like this because this is very custom created, right? So even if you've ever made a vision board in the past or whatever, you're just pulling a random couple that is doing nothing that you even want to do from a magazine that
Right.
has nothing to do with your vision of what you want for your future, and then wondering why nothing happens, right? So this is very
Right.
much every one of my heart's desires. Like my heart turned out upside down and in front of me on a wall. And so
I love it.
tension alone, and then the follow through of actually doing it and finishing it is so powerful because it is moving into the act of creation, not sitting on the outside going, I wish. You're already in the
Right.
process, the manifesting process.
Right. Well, that's the thing. It's like you're the creator now.
Yep.
You have declared yourself to be the creator. I think that's so, I mean, I'm thinking as we're talking, I'm thinking of all the things that I wanted in a relationship, in a man. And I did a similar kind of exercise with myself. I did a lot of journaling. I did a lot of writing of stories, of really clearing up my mindset, of getting rid of old stories and old, baggage that was weighing me down and was just a barrier to what I wanted. And this is going to sound really silly and small, but it matters to me. I really wanted to be with a man who loves to drive because I love to take drives, and we live in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
I like but I don't like to drive. I mean, I had to drive for years and years and years when I was raising my kids as a single mother. I
Right.
drove everywhere. My kids were both athletes. So I was always driving to some regatta in some small
Right.
town and, like trying to figure out where I was going. And I have been a driver my whole life, but I just didn't want to anymore. I just want to be in the passenger seat and flip
Right.
through my New Yorker magazine and look
Yeah.
out the window and fiddle with the radio. And I just want to just drive me around, squire me about town. Like that was my thing. And I will tell you, I am married to a man. We took a 40-hour road trip. I think I drove for 1 hour
I love it. I love
just to give him a
it.
break. And then he's like, I know you don't like this, so I'm going to get back in the driver's seat. And we just drive everywhere. We drove to Missoula, Montana. We drive to Whistler.
Love
We
it.
drive everywhere, and he loves to drive me around. And and it never fails to delight me. And I never forget how important it is because, as a single mother, and by the way, you were a single mother
Yeah.
for many
Yeah.
years too.
Absolutely.
And when we talk about feminine energy, masculine energy, well, you know what? When you're the one paying the mortgage and
Doing
taking
both.
care of everything and doing everything, like you got
Yeah.
to have both feminine and masculine energy because
Right.
you're it, right?
Yep. Yep.
And it's really a beautiful thing to be able to just sort of take your hands off the wheel, metaphorically, but also
Yep.
literally in my case, and let someone else do the driving, and just trust and be supported and cared for in that way. And I know it sounds small, but for me, it really matters, and I love it. I love
Yeah.
it so much. But if
I
I
love
wouldn't have gotten clear about that and like
Yep.
what it means for me, really, I wouldn't have known to even want it, or importantly, I wouldn't have known to appreciate it when it showed up.
Yeah, and it's so funny because there's so many things like that on my 6-pager list. When I reread it probably 3 months into our relationship, and I was so freaked out, honestly, because literally the 6 pages is him to a T. Like, if I sat down now knowing him for almost a year and wrote a description of him, I couldn't have done a better
Wow.
job. Like, it's creepy almost. It's so crazy. And so only 3 months into our relationship, this poor guy, I love him so much because he gets it. I was like, "Do you wanna read something that might kind of freak you out a little bit?" So he read it, and he was just like, I could just see him like laughing and smiling as he's going through it. But there were so many things on that list that were like that for me. One was, I wanna laugh, and I didn't even necessarily remember putting it down. It was probably just one of those things that I was, like, listing because it was, again, something I never had, so I didn't really know its importance all that much. But I'm telling you, there's never an interaction that we have where we're not just cracking up. Like, I did not know that I was missing laughter in my life the way that I'm missing it.
Aw.
And he was so funny after he read the whole thing. He was like, "Can I keep this? I just wanna keep it, like, by my nightstand, so if I ever forget who I am, all I have to do is read that." And I was like, "Yes, you may." So,
It's
you
so
know,
it's
you really
you know
have what you
it's
want. You can.
yeah, you can have what you want. And then I think it's so cool that then when you get it, you really appreciate it, and it doesn't go unnoticed by you. And I think
Absolutely.
that that's a real risk that we all run, right? Like we have these beautiful things in our lives that once upon a time we wished for, and
Yep.
now they're here and they seem like, oh yeah, and you take it for granted. They seem like, oh, of course, it's kind of in the background of my life. And it's nice to have a journal, a list, a future board, something, an artifact where you can look back and say, I wished for this and now it's here. I'm
I
going to
love
take a
it.
minute to really be grateful for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's another, we have a couple practices that I'll share because I think they have been really impactful for us growing from, someone who met on Hinge to the place that we're at now. And one was, we made a commitment to, he's not a big texter, he's a very, very, very busy person. And so I was like, well, I need a lot of communication. And so I had to think about like what's going to work for me, right? Um,
Hmm.
so we came up with, we'll send a voice note to each other every single morning to start the day, because at least we start the day hearing each other's voice. Then if we don't text during the day, we know we're always going to have a conversation at night. And both of us have never failed to do that. Like, through anything, through travel, through anything. And I think that just each day that that was happening built trust. Each day that that was happening built openness, and not just communication but openness. So I think, like, be creative in the ways that you learn how to grow together, because what you've done in the past
Yes.
probably is not going to work in a healthy, healed relationship. And that
Mm.
was a big eye opener. I really thought things that I thought I needed, like I thought I needed constant communication. I needed it with everyone I'd ever talked to. But what I realized is, like, when you have secure love, you don't need it.
Right.
I hadn't had it before.
Right.
So
Right.
understand that a lot of those habits that you formed, or a lot of those things that you feel like you have to have, or are non-negotiables for you, they might not be once you're in a healed and happy, loving, trusting relationship. Be open to
Hmm.
that. Like, be flexible.
Yes. Absolutely. And when I'm working with my coaching clients, we talk about boundaries versus blocks.
Yeah.
So boundaries are healthy. They're there for a reason. They're the parameters that you want to live your life within. Boundaries are good for you. They're useful. And blocks are just old stories, old ideas. Maybe they stem from wounds or bad relationships, people who hurt your feelings. Those are blocks that you have. And a block can be like, if you don't text me, 25
You're
times a
done.
day,
Yeah.
then you're not interested in me. It's
Yeah.
not enough for me. And a block that I had was, that this whole idea of I just need somebody who just talks a lot, is always telling stories, and who's got a big personality,
Yeah.
because for me, that meant engagement.
Right,
That
right,
meant, oh, you're really in this with me. You're engaged in
right.
this conversation. I don't want to be ignored. I don't want you to be,
Mhm.
quiet. I feel like then you're not thinking about me. And that was a block. And I
Right.
had to work my way through that block to have and to realize, no, a healthy, healed relationship is where I feel super secure
Yep.
and completely comfortable, even if we're sitting in the same room and we're not talking to each other for a few moments, or if he's in the
Yeah.
other part of the house and I'm over here. It's not about that panicky, like, oh, I need to engage. I need to prove to myself that this relationship works. And I realized where that came from, and I don't have to live there anymore.
Well, and I would
I don't want to live there anymore in old
absolutely, and
relationships.
right, and I would also say that give yourself grace. First of all, communicate that with your partner. I think
Yep.
because when there's something like that, it will come up as triggers throughout, right? Until you both kind of heal it together by building new trusts and new pathways. And again, that was all stuff I didn't know because it was a brand new road I was traveling. But I think, for me, the communication is a perfect example, just like the one that you just gave, where I was like, well, I know this is what I need. I've it's never been successful
Right.
without it. And so
Right.
then if I wasn't getting it, that old trigger and old voice would come up. And then I would have to pause. And he had said something in the very beginning where has always stuck with me. And I keep it with me all the time, which was, can we try to always assume positive intent with each other? Like
Yes.
if we can always do that, we're going to be great. And so in those moments when the trigger would come up, I would pause and I would say, okay, the positive intent is he's shown me in every possible way that he is not that person who's ignoring me right now, or he is not that person who doesn't want to talk to me right now. He is that person who's in back-to-back meetings for 12 hours a day and hasn't had to go to the bathroom yet, and I
Right.
have to be secure enough in our relationship to be okay with that. And has this man followed through on everything he's ever said he would do? 100%. Okay. Then I have to learn how to heal that, right? And so there's so much beautiful journey that I think that can happen in a healed relationship, but it just know that's going to be really different because again, in past ones, I would have bounced. I've been like, I'm sorry, you clearly must not, value me or something like that. But
Right.
when it was different and when he had all those qualities that I was looking for, I had to check myself and be like, okay, here's a moment to heal. Like, here's where you heal.
Yeah.
Here's where you take what he's
Yeah.
actually giving you and you heal the hurt everyone else has done and you don't put it on him.
Right. And also, what a great opportunity to be able to heal in the middle of life, in your 40s, in your 50s, in your 60s. Right. So a really good relationship is not just a great thing to have, and partnership is great, and being in love is great, and having a fabulous sex life is great.
Yeah.
Okay, all good. But it's also a wonderful opportunity to heal your own stuff.
And to
Just
grow.
you as a person, and to grow as a person. I don't have to be this person who has these insecurities or these sadnesses or
Absolutely.
these worries. I can move past it with the help of this beautiful, loving relationship.
Yep.
I
Oh my
mean,
gosh.
that's a gift. That's a gift you give yourself.
Absolutely. And the willingness and openness for both to communicate, to learn, and to grow and to show up differently. I think creating that safe
Yep.
space, we both very early on were able to talk about our triggers. We were able to create a safe space where we both heard each other and listened to each other. And then we did what I think a lot of people forget to do, which is say, okay, what do you need moving forward so that you don't feel like that again? What can I,
Right.
or what can we work on that we can heal from that? That doesn't ever have to be a trigger again
Mm,
once we heal it. It doesn't, not something you have to carry for the rest of your life. And that was really powerful because it helps you know yourself again and to say, okay, and that's how we came up with our voice notes and our call at the end of the day. And we both always say, like, we can't wait for that call at the end of the day. It's something we look forward to it's our daily date night. Um,
yeah.
and we start each other's day off with like such a positive reinforcement of each other that it's like I don't even miss any of that anymore. Like literally, it took a while. There was a detox period, a healing period from that old trigger, but now not at all. I just get really excited that
Mm,
I can tell him everything that's going on in my day tonight when we both have time to fully pay.
mm. You know what I love? I love that there are men like him out there.
Me too.
And I do. And men like
Yeah.
David, my husband, men like this wonderful, beautiful man that you're describing. Like, I just love it because I hear a lot from women, I just don't know there aren't any good guys out there. I just don't know if I'm ever going to find anyone. There are no guys in my area where I live. And I get it that it's easier to tell yourself that story than it is to do the work to go out there and find love. But here's the truth. I believe that there are beautiful men who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, who are absolutely wanting to be great partners and wanting to be in love and show up and be the best version of themselves and have a healed relationship. I do. I believe that. I believe that the
100%
world
too.
is full of great men. I do.
Yeah.
I love the men in my life.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times women just were honestly not giving them the chance. I mean, there's that old stereotype of like, she doesn't like the nice guy, but that's really true, right? Again, like we were talking about before, she wants the fireworks, she wants like, riding whatever. And I think at this stage in life, you have to really understand like what type of relationship do I want? Because
Yes.
if it is like all the things that we've been describing, which he's my best friend. We have the best time together. We have so much, the best, most deepest conversations. Like, and by the way, we have amazing chemistry. So don't let anyone think that is not part of it. It was just a slow burn. I just had to give it time
Yeah.
to grow in a natural way. We made a commitment early on. We were going to wait a while, which was an amazing decision because there was no pressure and we just allowed that to grow. And trust and believe that all the good things are there. Are there. So like, you
Yeah.
don't have to say, I want one or the other because it's all,
No.
it's all there. You just might have to let go of some of your superficial things that you were dismissing,
Mm-hmm.
the perfect partner on and get clear and
Yeah.
open enough to actually receive what they're,
Yes.
like what that good guy is trying to show up and show you. Like, give him time. Ladies, give him time.
Yes.
They say there's some stats, and I'm probably going to misquote this, but there's something along the lines of it takes a man 3 to 6 months to start feeling emotional connection. So if you think of that, and if sex is involved right away, he almost never does. That's why it's very hard to turn a one night stand or a quick thing into long lasting, because it's like a little switch that turns off in his brain and like that's done, right? So think of all the times we dismissed him before we got to 3 months. We were just like, he could have been a great guy. He could have been treating us amazing. He could have planned the dates. He could have done all of those things, but we're like, I don't feel a spark yet, or I don't like want to rip his clothes off yet. Like,
I know. I
this,
always use the example of David. I didn't want to kiss him at all that first night. I was like, he's nice enough.
yeah,
It was like somebody else took a look at his profile and they're like, oh my God, he's so cute. He's so hunky. I'm like,
yeah,
you think? Okay.
right,
Now I think so.
yeah,
Now
of
I do. I think he's super
course,
handsome and sexy. But
yep,
like at first, I was like, yeah, he's fine,
yeah,
I guess,
yeah,
And
yeah,
but it was like the slow burn really. And here's why the slow burn is great, because the slow burn is the kind of burn that's going to stay there your whole life. It's
yep,
not going to fizzle out after a few months or a year. It's going to be able to keep you warm forever, ladies. You want the slow burn because you want this person and this relationship to be around for the long
yeah.
term. That's the whole idea. That's the whole idea here.
Yeah. And just remember, he probably needs a lot more time than you to get there. I was, again, so clear on
Yeah.
what I wanted. I saw it all right there that, I stopped talking to everybody else, honestly, like after our first date. But it took him a while, right? Like, men are going to come around a whole lot. Just opening up their emotional side takes time because they have to actually really know you. They have to really fall for you as a person, not the idea of you,
Mm,
not like how you look. Like, that's all the chemistry piece or the physical attraction piece,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But for them to really emotionally fall for you, that is going to take some time, and give him the space to do that. Like, I think we want them to be emotionally available 2 months in, or like fourth date in, and why are you not like, why can you not live without me or whatever, and
Yeah.
we're just kind of rushing a lot of that because we do emotionally connect quicker, women. And so I think that's another piece of it. Just have that patience, let him show up, let him continue to show you, and sit back and just enjoy it. Like,
Yeah,
enjoy it.
and it's sit back and enjoy it. And we talk about feminine energy, masculine energy, and being in control. And I do believe that we're all in control of our lives, our destinies, the vision we have for the future. But also take your hands off the wheel a few times. Like you don't have
Yes.
to be in control of everything that goes on in this relationship. Let him do some things. Let him show
Amen.
up in his way. And I know how I am. I am a bossy Betty. So I am
Yeah.
like gonna want to I'm going to want to have all the things planned out. Like,
Yep.
where are you taking us to dinner on Friday? Oh, I don't like that place. And I'm
Yep.
like, you
Yep.
know what? Just relax and
Yeah.
let him do some things because you want a man who's going to feel confident enough to decide where we're going to go for the weekend. Oh, I'll never forget when David surprised me with a weekend trip. He just texted me one Friday morning and said, have your overnight bag packed by, noon.
Yeah.
And I've got a surprise for you. It was the sexiest thing in the
I was
world.
just gonna
It's
say
like,
that's pretty much the sexiest text you could ever get. Like,
ever. And I'm like, I don't care where we go. We were going someplace
exactly.
fabulous in
Yeah.
Canada, some gorgeous, waterside place, beautiful. It didn't matter to me. What mattered was that text, that
Yep.
kind of like take charge energy. But if I were spending all my time trying to control every little last thing, he wouldn't have done that. So
Thousand
sometimes it's good to
percent.
just, right. You gotta like take the back seat a couple
Yeah.
of times.
And I will say that's actually a huge point because most of the women that I know that are single are in the same boat that we were. I mean, we're independent women by this time. We plan our whole lives. We're like on it. If we have a Friday night open,
Yeah.
let's get the plan in the books. Let's make it happen. But then what do they all say? I want a man who makes plans for me. But no one
Right.
is around for him to make plans for, like to give
Right.
him the space or the air to breathe to make a plan.
Right.
And so for me, again, part of that list is I was like, no, this time, because I've been working on my feminine energy, like I am gonna step back. I'm not gonna say one thing about the first time we meet. I'm not gonna say one thing about
Right.
the next time we meet. Like I'm sitting backseat to that all the way because I wanna again see what he's if he's gonna do it. And so
Yeah.
he's the best date planner. Like he planned such a fun first date, which is why we are here because it was totally outside of anything any of us would do. He doesn't drink wine. I love wine. So he took us on this like surprise pop-up tour that I don't even know where he found it. And it was a rosé and in the park type thing that I would have never gone to or ever heard of. But it was literally the thought of he did it for me because he knew that was my.
Yeah.
And so from then on, we have a date night every Wednesday, and then I'll cook some of the ones, but any of the ones that are in his book, I never say anything. I just, show up. So when the oyster post that I just put up, that was a perfect example of like, and it's happened multiple times, but that whole day I was like, I had a big win that day and I just want to celebrate. And when I celebrate, I want champagne and oysters. And so all day I was like, I can't wait to
Yeah.
see him and tell him about the win and everything. And man, I really want oysters. And I I get in the car. I didn't say anything because again, he usually has a plan that he doesn't tell me about. It's always great, and I love that. But I get in the car and he's like, "How does an oyster bar sound?" And I was like, "Oh my god!" It's
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
like we just get each
Exactly.
other. So
But
just sit
also
back
it's like,
and make it happen.
yeah, but what you're saying is too is that you're giving him the space to be that
Exactly,
guy, to be the guy that you say you want. But if
exactly.
you're trying to micromanage everything, he can never
Challenge
be
him.
that guy.
Mm,
Right. Right.
yep,
So, oh
exactly.
my God. Okay. So here's the thing. You and I are going to have so much fun in
Can't wait.
gorgeous Leavenworth, Washington in April. We are going to talk about this and more. We're going to do our workshops. We are going to meet these fabulous love campers who are coming. And I'm just so happy that you're doing it. I'm so happy. And we're both Pacific Northwestern girls.
I
So this is
know.
this is our area. We love it
And I've
here. We
never
love it
been to
here.
Leavenworth, so I'm super excited to go. It's been on my list forever. So I can't wait. We are going to have so much fun. And I am telling
Hmm.
you, the women who come are going to leave and manifest love. Like I've been helping women manifest love for years and years and years before I was ready to be in that seat. So it will work. The stuff that you
Mm.
works for me. It got me to manifest the love of my life. So like if they
Yes.
if they do this work that we're going to do, I mean, please.
I know you're on my website. I put you on that on findinglove.co on the retreat page. There's a big picture of Sarah, and it's that quote that you gave me. I'm so glad. I'm so glad we had this conversation, is what you said. And you went out
Absolutely.
and found this man. I mean,
Yep.
I believe you. And I think it's so much easier and better when we do this kind of stuff together. We meaning we women who
Yeah.
are, you know, in the middle of life and we want to find love. You don't have to do stuff like this by yourself. That's my biggest message. Let's support each other. Let's lift each other up as we do this together.
And you need the playbook. Like I said, because those things that you had said to me, they helped me know what to look for. They helped me make those changes because you had been through it before I had, right? And so this playbook that they're gonna get at the workshop, you know, is so valuable because we don't have it out there otherwise, right?
Yes.
And if you put it into play, it's gonna work for you. Like your man is out there, your partner's out there, your love is out there. Yeah.
Absolutely. I believe it. I know it for sure.
Me too. I'm so excited.
Yay. All right. All right. I'm
I'm
so
wearing my
excited,
little
Sarah.
heart earrings for you.
Now I saw. I love that. Well, listen, I just love you. I love connecting with you. Everything that you're doing, I'm so excited for you, and I cannot wait to read your new book, by the way. I
Ah,
can't wait
thank
to
you
read
so
it.
much. I'm so excited. It's all gonna be about the mindset. So as you well
I
know,
know.
mindset is a big piece of manifesting love and changing our beliefs around it for
Mm,
sure. Yeah.
okay. Well, more to come on all of this, but I hope to see everybody who's listening. If you are looking for love, come to Love Camp in the
Yes.
beautiful Pacific Northwest this April. Go to findinglove.co to learn more. Sarah Centrella is going to be my special featured guest, and I couldn't be happier. It's going to be perfect.
Thanks so much, Nancy. And Nancy Bruce, love you to pieces. Everybody go listen and subscribe to the podcast. Meet us in Leavenworth, Washington. I cannot wait. And until next time, everybody, get out there and hustle and thrive.
Yeah.
All right. Will that work, do you think?